Hello students, welcome to our session on stock and commodity markets. In today's video, we are still dealing with module 3 and we will be studying about the various trading patterns that are available for investors. Again, from your exam point of view, this is a question which has been asked quite regularly. It can either come up as an 8 marker or it can possibly be a 15 marker as well. So in total, there are a total of 11 trading patterns. So let's just have a look at each of these trading patterns and what are the characteristic features of each of these trading patterns. So let's have a look at the first point here. You have something known as intraday trading. So an intraday trading is a situation where the investor buys and sells that same stock on the same day. So by the end of the day, they are not going to carry forward any stock with them in their demat account. So they buy and they close the position also on the same day by eventually selling the stock before the close of the trading timings. So like 10 o'clock to 3:30 in case you're taking the timings for trading. They will probably buy the stock sometime in the morning at around 11 or 11:30, and by the time it's 2 o'clock, they will sell off the stock and they will book a profit. On the other hand, they can even take a position where they are first selling and they are squaring off, or they are closing the position before the end of the day where they are buying it back and again they are booking a profit. So one more characteristic feature of intraday trading is they have the facility of trading on margin. Now, what we understand by this is that in case these traders fall short of funds, they will be provided a kind of a small loan by the brokers. So they borrow money from the brokers and they continue their trading decisions. So even in case they do not have sufficient amount of own funds, they can always continue trading in case of an intraday trading from the amount borrowed from the brokers. This might be a risky proposition for brokers also, but ultimately, in case these traders are not able to book a profit by the end of the day, the brokers always have their security deposit, which is in the form of cash or securities to bank upon. In case these traders fail to book a sufficient amount of profit using the broker's money, that is. So this is the way in which intraday trading takes place. And a very important feature, what we need to remember here is no security gets carried forward for the next day. There is nothing left in the demat account in the form of securities of the trader in the next day. So next day they have to start a fresh form of trading in a different type of security or maybe the same security possible. Next, have a look at the next point here. You have something known as delivery trading. So what we understand by delivery trading is, yes, the investor takes the delivery of the shares. The shares will get credited to their demat account and they will be holding the shares for more than one day. Or they may hold it even for a few months also. Moving on to the third point, you have something known as the bull market and the bear market. I think if you look at my previous two videos, you will have a very clear view of what exactly is bull market and bear market. I do not think I want to go into this again and spend time. So let's have a look at the next type of trading mechanism. There is something known as floor trading. So floor trading is not prevalent right now. So it was something which used to happen before the computerization of the trading procedure, before the advent of internet, before the digitalization of trading. Before all these situations happened, floor trading used to take place. If you see the, if you just see this series of steps which is posted here, you can understand what a lengthy process floor trading used to be. So what used to happen is the investor, whoever wants to purchase or sell shares, will contact a broker. The broker contacts another party, someone known as the order clerk, who will be sitting in the stock exchange. And the order clerk in turn transfers the order to a floor broker. So a normal broker is somebody who is outside the stock exchange, and the floor brokers are somebody who is actually sitting in the stock exchange and executing the orders. And in those days, the way in which orders used to be executed was by way of an open outcry system. Nowadays, everything is electronic. Everything is made electronic. Everything has become computerized. But in the previous days, what used to happen is these brokers used to literally shout out what shares they want to buy or what shares they want to sell. And they literally used to shout out the price at which they are planning to buy or sell the shares. On the opposite party, there might be another broker of their respective client who is willing to again buy or sell shares at a certain price. Now, let us say I want to purchase a share. I will be having a broker who eventually contacts the order clerk and the floor broker. The floor broker will mention the type of shares, the number of shares, and the price at which they are willing to buy the shares. On the other hand, there will be another floor broker who's operating for another client who wants to sell shares. So they will mention again the type of shares, the number of shares, as well as the price at which they are willing to sell shares. If the investor's broker over here, the price and the quantity matches along with the price and quantity of the other party, the seller's broker, they both enter into a deal. So it used to be quite a lengthy mechanism. Now, in case a deal is struck, the floor broker will execute the deal, will pass on the message back to the order clerk, who will pass on the message to the investor's broker, who will eventually pass on the message along with the confirmation order to the investor. So this was the lengthy process which used to happen. And whenever the shares are purchased, it used to be in the form of physical certificates. And there used to be quite a large number of hassles over here. So these share certificates, whenever it is getting transferred, the registration of it used to be a hassle. Then there used to be a hassle regarding the damage that takes place to these physical paper-based certificates. All these things were problems. Now, moving on to the next type of trading, you have something known as electronic trading. With electronic trading, whatever lengthy procedure we spoke about in floor trading, all that has been done away with. Everything is in a computerized form. So what happens in an electronic trading is either you on your own knowledge, based on your own knowledge, or you can contact a broker and ask them to purchase or sell a certain number of shares. And you can even quote the price also, below which or above which you do not want the broker to transact the business. So based on your preferences, or in case you do not have any knowledge about the stock market, the broker themselves, they will execute orders on your behalf based on whatever knowledge they will be having. Now, this is normally something which is adopted in case of people, they do not have sufficient knowledge relating to the stock market. So they contact a broker, ask the broker to purchase or sell on their behalf. And it also, electronic trading is also applicable for those people who do not have internet connectivity. So because you do not have internet connectivity, you can probably visit a branch office, or you might probably just make a phone call to your broker, and according to your preferences, or according to whatever is best for you, the broker will execute your orders based on computer, based on a computerized platform. So there is not even a need for you to even enter the stock exchange and place the orders. Whatever is placed on the broker's computer will get reflected in the stock exchange terminal, and ultimately the buyers will get connected with the sellers by way of the terminal, the internet-based terminal itself, and immediately within a few seconds the deals can happen. On the other hand, in floor trading, it used to take days together for you to get hold of the share certificate. But in electronic trading, within a few seconds or within a few minutes also, the shares will get transferred to your Demat account, and the money will get credited into your account if you're selling, or debited from your account. That is the trading account in case you are buying. Now, have a look at the next type of trading. We have online trading. Now, let's take an example that you are an investor who has sufficient knowledge regarding the stock markets, and you also have access to all the technical reports, the charts, and other indicators relating to the stock market. In such a case, you need not contact any broker through phone or by personally visiting their office and ask them to execute the trade. You yourself, through the internet, through the online platform, can execute the trade. Now, the only reason why you require the broker is because you're using their online platform. Now, however, if you're going for an online trading mechanism, the charges, brokerage charges, what you will be paying will be much lower, because not many services you're taking from the broker apart from using their online trading platform. An example of an online trading platform is ICICI Direct is an example of an online trading platform. Axis Direct is an example of an online trading platform. Then you have other online discount brokers also, like Angel Broking is one example. Then you have Wisdom Capital, which is another example. Then you have Motilal Oswal. Then you have Zerodha. So all these are examples of discount brokers. All you're doing is using the broker's online platform to execute the trade. In the online platform itself, all technicals relating to the movement of the stocks and what is likely to escalate, what is likely to go down, all the technicals and other macroeconomic indicators will everything be given in that online platform itself. Based on that, you as an investor can make concrete decisions. And since, as I had already told you, in electronic trading, your broker is doing most of the job for you, like executing the order or even taking decisions on your behalf. Since the broker is doing all this job, they will, the services offered by them are more. So obviously the commission that they charge will also be high. So they are full service brokers. On the other hand, when you're adopting an online trading platform where you yourself, out of your own knowledge on the stock markets, you're deciding to trade, the service charges are not going to be much. It will be much lower compared to a full service broker. So these are normally known as discount brokers. Have a look at the other types of trading patterns. You have something known as swing trading. So a swing trading, it is something similar to a delivery trading, what we had seen in the past slide. So it's a situation where you are holding the stocks for like up to a few days. On the other hand, it's completely different from intraday trading or a day trader who doesn't hold a stock through that particular day. So on supposing they are executing, a day trader is someone who starts a transaction at 11 o'clock and will close the position or square off the position by around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Whereas a swing trader is not so. Supposing they purchase a stock at 2:30 in the afternoon, they will continue holding the stock over the next day or over the next few days. Moving on to fundamental trading. So I think in the last semester, you might have studied about something known as fundamental analysis. So what we mean by fundamental analysis is you are looking at the company's financials. Based on the company financials, you're estimating whether the company's value will increase or decrease. A company who has made a huge amount of profits, you can estimate that the company's value has increased. Thereby, the share prices are also likely to increase. So you will want to purchase the shares of such a company. A company who is showing an excellent EPS, earnings per share. This is also an indicator of the company performing well, the company distributing large amount of dividends to the shareholders. So it's obviously reflected that a well-performing company value will also increase in the future. So it's best to take hold of the company's shares, to buy some of these companies' shares. You will go for another type of financial indicator, something known as a PE ratio, a price earnings ratio, where you're trying to see the ratio between the market price per share and the earnings per share. If you feel that the market price per share is quite high, there is again a chance where the company is on an upswing. The company seems to be scaling up in terms of its value. So it's probably best for you to again acquire some of the shares of the company. So these are all decisions that you make based on decisions of a buy or sell decision that you are making based on reading the company's financial statements. Alternatively, there can be other developments within the company. The company might be on a growth spurt. So the company might be growing in different markets. They might have entered into different foreign markets. It's definitely expected that their business is growing, so you can take hold of these shares. Or probably the management of the company has changed. A management who was not that beneficial to the company has changed, and we have now got a new management who appears to be very efficient. Because of a change in management also, and if efficient people come in the board of directors, you can expect the company to perform well, and thereby you will end up purchasing some of the company's shares. So these are all examples of making your purchase decision of a company's shares based on the company's financials. Alternatively, you can also base your decisions based on the way in which some macroeconomic forces are operating. For example, supposing a huge breakthrough technology comes and is really a boon for the IT industry. So this breakthrough technological developments which happens in the IT industry is going to increase the performance of IT industries in general. And obviously, if a company's shares, a company is a top player in the IT industry, they are expected to perform well because of the general industrial trend. You can take some of that company's shares, or as a whole, you can take up shares of a sectoral index. Or a government will probably extend support to the oil companies, the oil-based companies, or the energy-based companies. So if this is a case, again, you can acquire shares of these oil or energy companies. So these are ways in which you can formulate your purchase decisions. Have a look at, and another important factor of fundamental analysis is if you are purchasing certain companies' shares based on fundamental analysis, your objective is normally to hold on to these shares for quite a long number of years. So you're expecting that in the long term, there is going to be phenomenal growth. Then you have something known as technical trading. Now, technical trading is something where, if you see this picture given here, trading is done, trading decisions are made based on movement of the charts. So there you might have studied about charting patterns and about tools that are helpful in charting. You might have heard of candlesticks and all those things. So if you see the chart here, based on the way in which this chart is moving, a technical trader, by reading the chart, will be able to estimate in the future where the chart is likely to move. Accordingly, they will execute their purchase or sale decisions. And by the way, in technical trading, the prices of shares are based on the forces of demand and supply. The way in which demand and supply is moving, share prices are also decided based on which these charts will also move in a certain direction. On the other hand, in fundamental trading, the pricing or assessing the value is done based on company financials and macroeconomic forces and industrial forces. So, many of the times technical trading normally, intraday traders, for example, will not go for fundamental analysis. They'll go more for technical analysis. They will make their decisions based on the charting patterns and the movements of the charts. Moving on to the next type of trading, you have something known as positional trading. Positional traders are those people who will go for fundamental analysis, and their objective is to hold on to shares for a large number of years, expecting that in the future, the prices are going to move very favorably over the long term. And you have another type of category of traders. You have a technique known as scalping, a very interesting technique. I'll first illustrate this with an example. See, let us take, for example, ABC company's share. is priced at 67 rupees. In a few seconds, ABC company share moves up to a price of 69. Immediately, when it was 67, you buy. The moment it becomes 69, you sell. Within another few minutes, ABC company's shares comes up to 70. So again, you buy the shares. Another 1 or 2 minutes later, the price of ABC company's shares goes up to 71. So you sell off the shares. So what are you doing over here? The same shares, a same company's shares, or a group of shares, you will be purchasing and you will be selling it off, or vice versa, and booking a small amount of profit over a small duration. Within a few minutes or within an hour or so, you will again purchase and sell probably the same company's shares. You will deal with the same company's shares or maybe a different company's shares, but your objective is to monitor the shares for a short duration, and as soon as a slight optimistic trend happens, as soon as a slight movement in the price happens, it may be even for 1 rupee or 2 rupees, you immediately sell it off and book a profit there. So what you're doing is you're executing a large number of trades, many trades you are executing, for which you're booking small amounts of profits for each of these trades. Now, this is different from the previous strategies what investors used to use. In the previous strategies, you're executing trade only once or twice, but you're booking a large amount of profits in that 1 or 2 transactions. But in a scalping technique, you're doing many transactions and you're booking small portions of profits in each of these transactions. You should again exercise caution while you are indulging in scalping. Now, the reason is, a small price movement, if it is not monitored correctly, you may end up losing a lot of money. At one go, you may lose a large amount of money, which will offset whatever small profits you had booked initially. So it will make all your efforts a waste. One large loss will make all the small profits that you have made all this while a waste. And there is one more catch with scalping technique. That catch is, since you're executing many number of trades, you're obviously paying even transaction costs for those number of trades. Your profit, your asset is making a small profit for each trade. That profit should justify the transaction costs that you are paying. Each time you're executing a trade, you will be indulging in incurring a certain transaction cost. Thereby, whatever profit you as an investor are booking, it should be definitely more than whatever transaction costs you are paying. Only then it's justifiable. And of course, you also have the time and the efforts what you're investing in booking these small profits. So with this, so you have a total of 5 plus 13. I initially told 11, but I'm sorry, it's 13 strategies which you will be having in your syllabus pertaining to trading patterns. So I'll conclude this video with this note. In the next video, I shall see you guys with another topic relating to module 3. Module 3, which is trading in stock markets. Thank you.